Oh, look at that.
Welcome to episode number 9 of the Jack's Wax podcast. My name is Jared Miner. I am here with Todd Isaac. What up?
What's up?
Man, Christmas time.
Christmas time.
We're close.
Oh, God, it's getting better. How's that elf on the shelf going?
My elf on the shelf? He's
How
actually
many times? I want to know how many times he hasn't made it to the North Pole due to weather.
0 times.
Oh, you've been up every night and done it?
No, my wife has done it every single time.
At least you're honest.
No, I'm on it, man. I wake up in the morning early, see where he's at, move him to the spot. But I do find out that my wife moves him. Like, my spot's not good enough. She's like, it's not that creative, because I like throw him on the floor. You know what I mean? And she walks in, she puts it like real cute, and it's like he's like holding his knees up, and he's like hanging from a reindeer.
I've seen on like Facebook and stuff. You need to do the one where you got the little girl, Livy.
Yeah.
You need to get where the elf is with a bunch of Barbies, like hanging out.
Well,
I've seen them where they.
She has a Barbie dream house, so
gotcha.
the elf was taking a bath the other day in the Barbie dream house.
Oh,
because that's what she said. That's where she wanted it, and then miraculously the next day, that's what happened, and she thinks that's just the greatest thing in the world. How did he know?
How do you even know to do it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Crazy.
Ask your mom.
I don't know. She did ask her.
Yeah. So today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about paint correction or buffing.
Yes, man. It's been a big topic. Everybody's asked us a lot about it. Not just the people. I mean, even guys that are polishing, buffing every day.
Professional detailers.
But we get from the daily. But there's a guy just now in the showroom who came in and was asking about the best way to get swirls out. That's the common question from everybody that just has a daily driver to. We got another high-end car in today that's getting paint correction to get swirls out.
Yeah.
But you get them from everybody from A to B, A to Z that wants to get swirls out of the car.
Yeah, part of it's kind of tough because everybody looks at cars differently. What I think is perfect paint, for example, compared to what you think perfect paint is, or the next guy or whoever think, what we look at, I may see more than, because I've been in this industry forever, than the regular guy off the street would see, maybe.
I have people all the time coming back, man, your car looks so nice because it'd be cleaned up, but to me, it's got so many swirls in it, and it's just that's why it's so important to everyone, because somebody who I'm cautious of putting swirls in, I still get them because it's really hard to avoid them.
Totally avoid,
especially if you're not doing all the proper. Because I've been guilty of being in a hurry and driving through drive-through car wash or whatever, and that is the worst thing you can do as far as putting scratches on your paint. Yeah,
you take a person like my wife or my mom or something like that. They go through automatic car washes. They don't really care so much about the imperfections that's putting in there. You get a lot of people that are in our business, they would never consider going through an automatic car wash.
It's like
that's the biggest no you could ever have.
Just like makes them cringe.
Yeah. So I mean, that's why it's such a broad topic, but it's way more relevant to people now because people are trying to achieve really, really good looking paint, and customers are way more educated than they used to be.
And with all the technology that's out there, it really is easy for an average day-to-day guy at home to achieve great paint in his garage.
It's easier for sure. It's not that when I was growing up detailing early on, I always used a DeWalt or like a Milwaukee, even a Makita variable speed or high speed polisher, rotary polisher.
Yeah.
And that's the ones that still now today, dual action polishers, like on this desk right now, we have this Flex XE3401. Everybody that we talk to, like the general public, we go to certain car shows and they're like, man, I don't want to buff my car. I'm afraid to burn the paint. Or, that's how many times do you hear that?
Every time, and all the time at car shows, because it's still the myth out there. A lot of people don't know that you can, all the cars that come in here and all of our certified detailers or certified ceramic coating installers, when they're doing paint corrections, 0 of them use high-speed polishers.
The only time, so that's where this has changed. That's what I was getting ready to say. The high-speed polisher, what I learned on, and is still a great tool for really, really trashed paint.
Yeah.
Or taking out wet sand scratches or whatever.
Body shops still use them a lot.
Yeah, for sure. There's still a need for them. But when you're talking about taking out these car wash scratches that the automatic car washes put in there, and scratches that we as detailers or car enthusiasts are putting, when we're washing the car or we're drying it off or we're wiping wax off and maybe we had a little piece of dirt in the towel or whatever that's causing that imperfection or love mark.
Yeah.
those are so easily taken out with these dual action polishers now, and you don't have to be an expert. You still have to. I'm not saying you can just put a polisher in your hand and you just put it on the car and it's magic.
Right.
There's definitely a skill to it.
Definitely.
No question. That's why there are professional detailers, and for some people, that's the route you need to go if you're not comfortable. But it's just way different. The high-speed polishers, would I put that in a person's hand that has never used a polisher before?
Right.
0% chance.
But we'll do car shows today where if we have electric and we're demoing a buffer, we'll pick someone out of the audience who's never ever held one, turn them loose on a car. You're not going to mess it up. Now, are they going to achieve the results that you or I would know? But that's why we wanted to have this episode. So many questions come in about it from, A to Z. So we wanted to tackle questions like, what can I do to prevent swirls? If I have swirls, how can I get rid of them? What's the easiest ways? So that was kind of the main, topic of
and that's
episode.
why it's kind of hard, because I tend to go into the direction of, trying to achieve perfect paint, or what I consider, perfect paint. And the steps that you have to do to get to that, it takes time, depending on what it is. Clear coats on different manufacturer cars are different. They don't react the same.
Right.
There's certain buffing pad and polish and or compound combinations that work better on this style or this manufacturer's clear coat compared to this other one's, Mercedes compared to GM or whatever. So I don't believe that there's anything, hey, if I use this polisher, this pad, this compound, it is going to absolutely be the answer for all paints, all cars. It's just not the way it works.
And it's all about what you get used to when you get into that. When you actually get into the polishing part of it, it's all about what you get used to and what you like. I have guys that still love wool pads on a DA, or guys that like microfiber pads or only use foam pads. So it's all about what you get used to and what you're most comfortable with. But for the everyday person, ways to avoid, the scratches and putting swirls in are things like we talked about. Don't go through automatic car washes, number one.
Yep.
Those are just because what if a truck, muddy vehicle has went through before you, it's got all the dust, dirt on those, still on the brushes that are going over your car, and then it's just going right back on yours.
Beating your car to death. And not even that. I mean, let's say they were perfectly clean. They're still not nearly as soft. I've seen microfiber towels with stitching scratch paint.
Right.
So I'm sure that those automatic car wash, that material is going to do the same thing.
So that's one thing. Another thing is always, be cautious. There's all kinds of premium towels out there nowadays. So like you said, use edgeless towels that don't have an edge, because those seams will cause scratches.
The towel thing can't. It's one of the most important detailing tools you can have. It's always touching your paint. That's what you're using. And you can't get away with these. If you're trying to achieve really, really nice paint and keep it that way, these cheap towels that you can buy at these big box stores, while they have their use, let's say for an interior or cleaning wheels maybe or something like that, they're just not a quality enough towel to be, worked with on your paint.
And even if you're not just trying to achieve perfect paint, if you're just wanting to keep your paint in the best shape, say you got a new car. I had a friend who got a new Jeep, and I was like, first thing you could do is do not take it through a drive-through car wash and just use good towels on the paint.
Yeah.
That way you're gonna put scratches in it from time to time, wiping it, but the better towel you use, the longer it's gonna be.
Yeah, you're just trying to minimize it all.
Right, because theoretically, anytime you touch the paint, you're putting some kind of scratch, swirl, whether it's microscopic or you can see it.
That's right.
You're putting some kind of something in that paint. So it's all about using, real high GSM towels. We have double plush towels here, but those are steps that you can go. Grit guards in the bottom of the bucket.
Yeah, when you're in the washing process, that's another pretty important part. If you're going to hand wash your car, we have microfiber wash mitts that are really, really nice. When you're washing it, and always start at the top of your car, for example, because the bottom of the car is obviously the most dirty. So little tips and tricks like that. Wash your car properly, but inspect that mitt. So if I wash, let's say, the roof of my car, and then I put the mitt back down in my bucket with the grit guard, and I try to get all the dirt off, for example, when I pull it back out, I look at the mitt.
Right.
Make sure that there's not like a little rock or a big piece of dirt that could potentially now be reintroduced to the rest of the paint. That's another thing that's causing these imperfections. It's self-inflicted.
Definitely.
And it's not that you're not doing the wrong thing. It's just, how anal do you want to be about it? That's what it really comes down to.
And there's a lot of people that aren't aware. You use the 2-bucket method.
Yeah.
So you have a rinse bucket, you have a wash bucket, and when you have already washed, say, the roof of your car, and you're ready to, rinse out your rag, you put it in the rinse bucket so you can get all the dirt out of it, and then back down in your wash bucket. That way you get it new soap, there's no dirt getting back on your mitt.
Yeah, just work clean. I mean, it's in detailing. All these really good detailers, they just work clean.
Yeah.
And it pays down the road because you're not creating these other issues. If you improperly wash a car, and now guess what? We gotta buff it out, and
Right.
a lot of it can't be achieved by hand. Some scratches can be taken out by hand, but that's more like concentrated on one area. If I had one little scratch on my fender, but you're not going to do by hand. You're not going to do the entire vehicle.
No.
So
Yeah, it's really almost impossible. But it's all those little things, like obviously don't clean your wheels with the same mitt you're cleaning.
we think that's obvious.
Right.
That may not be very obvious to someone.
That's right.
That's why when we talk about this stuff, I try not to get off, and just because we deal with so many professional detailers, and I'm just in that world that I don't even sometimes consider the fact that
we want anyone who's listening to be able to take advantage. Maybe they don't know, don't use the same wash mitt on your wheels that you use on your paint.
Have dedicated wash and rinse buckets like you talked about. It
Mm-hmm.
would be, I would prefer to have a dedicated wheel bucket,
Which we came out with those little. We came out with a little set that's pretty cool.
like a 3-bucket
Yeah.
deal, and keep everything separate. And when you get done washing your car, rinse all that stuff out thoroughly so the stuff's not dried in there, caked, dirt and stuff like that. That's harder to get out later. I mean, there's just a lot of different steps that you can take to minimize it. If that's what you're trying to do, is avoid having to have paint correction done on your car.
And it's really simple. I mean, if you're just the everyday person at home and you're just trying to clean your car, just get 3 buckets and have one as a wash, one as a rinse, and one as your wheels, and just keep that stuff separated.
Yep.
That way you wash with the wheels, and it's not that difficult of a process to just minimize scratches if you're washing at home.
And so I'll even have some guys that will go through touchless car washes just to kind of knock the heavy stuff off.
I do sometimes.
Yeah, me too. And they're never going to be perfect, that's for sure. There's still I've gone through some ones that are pretty good, but there's still like some film left or whatever. But then it's just kind of easier to hand wash maybe. Now you don't have as much dirt. But especially dark colored cars, white cars, silver cars don't show as much unless you get them under certain lights. So they look better. But when you get in these dark colored cars, as everybody knows, the blacks and dark reds, blues, man, they show everything, especially in the sunlight.
Every single scratch. I mean, you'll look at it and almost get dizzy in my car because it's got so many. I feel like
but to just a regular person, your car is shiny. From 20 feet, it looks great.
Yeah.
So that's the other part. I've had cars come in here that looked awesome. Like, I look at them like, man, that looks really good. We get them under the scan grip lights. They don't look so awesome.
No.
So, and that's when we show that to the owner, and they're like, oh, damn, okay. Now I see what you're saying. Especially like on silver, for example, where you can't really tell outside how bad it looks.
It can be real tricky.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely can.
They can come brand new and look like they're new, and then you get them under the lights and scratched and swirled.
Well, yeah, for sure. So there's some steps you can take. And the tools used, we sell flex polishers exclusively. If I would tell you this. We sell that because of the big part of our customer base is these professional detailers that are using them day in and day out. And you can't have, a buffer that's just kind of a cheap, big box store type buffer. They just don't work as well, one, but they also don't last. And these guys don't have time to be down equipment. But I would say, so that's why Flex for us works great. Their customer service is really good. Our Flex rep lives right here in Columbus. I mean, there's just multiple reasons why we sell Flex polishers. I believe in them. But I would also tell you, I would be honest, if you were a guy that was just a guy wanting to do his own paint correction, you don't necessarily need a Flex polisher. If you were doing it once a year, let's say.
Right.
Or, if you want the best, then spend the money and get it.
And I always tell people, if you go the route and get a Flex, you'll never have to buy another one.
That's the other part. So you get what you pay for.
Right.
Like always. But don't feel like, they're not cheap, man. They're $400 a piece. So, that's a big investment for you having to do a paint correction one time on your car. And maybe you weigh out your options. You say, well, I could go to Harbor Freight, for example, and buy a $60 unit. Maybe I use it once. Is it going to perform as well as the Flex? Not even close.
But is it going to do maybe what you're trying to do?
Maybe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're just trying to knock out some swirls and scratches and you're not really getting all into it, that'll work. It'll
work. But then you start saying, well, maybe I just go to a professional detailer and have him do it.
Right.
And then have that person get it perfect and then just maintain it.
Maintain it.
Much easier to maintain because
yes.
Although, yes, what we're saying with these dual action polishers like this Flex make it easier to achieve really nice paint, that doesn't mean it's still a skill. And you're not just going to you're going to have a lot of time. So do you want to put all the time and the hours and the effort plus the expense to do this paint correction in your
Yeah.
car? Or do you just want to hire a guy that really knows what he's doing, or girl, and knock it out?
There's so much that goes into it. Like we were sitting here talking before the podcast, we could actually have a podcast just on like in depth of the process,
The entire paint correction process.
the paint correction process. Which, I mean, because there is a lot.
Yeah, well,
Different pad combinations and how certain scratches, certain swirls, this, that, and the other, and that's something that we often talk about whenever you're, the whole myth of wax on, wax off, going in circles.
Mhm.
So it's a lot better when you're wiping the car, if you're putting wax on, to go in straight lines. And the reason is when you go in straight lines, if you do put a scratch, if there is something in that towel and you scratch the paint, it's a lot easier to remove that straight line scratch rather than one that's swirled.
Yeah.
So if you're putting a scratch in and you're going straight, you'll put it in straight, and obviously if you're swirling, you're just sitting there marking and marking and marking.
That's right.
So that's why it's better to go in straight lines, and a lot of people still,
They have the notion of if you wipe the wax off of your car in a circular motion that you're putting swirls into the car. Well, think about that for a minute. If it was the towel that was putting the swirl in the car, if you wiped it off straight, it would also put us. If the theory is that if I wipe it in circles with this same towel, that it puts swirls in my car, in the paint. If I wipe it in straight lines, why would it not put swirls? It's the fact that you have something in the towel, a piece of dirt or something, or stitching on the end of it. If it's not a quality towel, whatever,
It's something
that's what's causing the swirl. It's not the towel itself.
It's not just by going in circular motion. It's something.
No.
It's something in it.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
But but we still recommend straight lines for the reasons you just stated. I mean, that's why we would want to do that.
Yeah, and it's not like by going in straight lines you're not rubbing it into the paint good enough. You're getting it's going on, and that's the one thing that a lot of these classic guys like about easy to use wax, because you don't have to rub so hard. So their cars are already immaculate. They're just trying to add that extra shine.
Yeah.
They don't want to have to rub so hard to get it off, because that paint is very important to them.
Yeah.
So they use something like a liquid carnauba, something that's so easy on, easy off. That way they can get it off with very little pressure.
And their paint they're taking it, whether it's a trailer queen that has never driven, or even regular show cars guys are driving, but they're never seeing rain.
Right.
So their paint never really gets bad. The only marks that it would ever have is if they were doing it with a microfiber towel or in the washing process or whatever.
Yes.
But
Which
that's
is, my bad, which is a key part in keeping swirls out is protection.
Yeah.
What kind of protection you use after you get them out or before. You want to keep a good layer of protection on your car, wax, whatever, ceramic coating, whatever it is you choose, sealant, and that's going to help you fight against scratches, swirls, that whole 9 yards.
I think it's just cool that people are now so aware of the potential that they can get out of their paint and potentially do it themselves.
Yes.
A lot of awareness has been brought on by ceramic coatings, because we've pushed, and so many companies pushed, listen, you really have to have the paint perfect. It sounds crazy to a person that has, and we've mentioned this in ceramic coating podcast, but it sounds crazy to a person that is just a novice to say, well, I could easily have 20 hours in your paint.
Yeah.
And
They're
a
like,
paint
"What?"
correction. They're like, how's that possible? That's impossible.
Yeah.
Well, it's not actually
Not
at
when,
all.
Not when you're talking about actually getting it. I mean, I'm talking every nook and cranny.
Well, and not just that, but some people. So again, it goes back to, you don't want to sit here and just geek out about detailing, but let's say we did half a hood and we buffed it and it looks great. When we get in the lights and there's a little scratch that now we can see, because the majority of the defects are gone, but now we still have some little stuff. Okay, well, I want to go back and get that.
Getting it all.
I'm getting every single one. So that is hours and hours and hours. Like
Yes.
it doesn't happen overnight.
And doing that same process on the little beams that are like the bottom of your door that you almost have to lay down to get. All those little spots, that's what goes into those big paint corrections. And, going into paint correcting, every car's different.
Yeah.
And every person is different. Everyone may say, like we've talked about, my paint looks great. And it may look great to them. So it's all about what your level of paint correction is. If you're wanting to, each car is different. If it's minor, surface scratches, swirls, you can get a product like Swirl Remover, and it's going to remove all of those little small ones.
Minor to medium defects.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you get into, now you've got a car that's, a few years old, been driven through a lot of automatic car washes, and it's got scratches, swirls, bad, you're going to want to use a cutting compound with a real heavy pad.
Mm-hmm.
That's what, when you start talking about paint correction, that's where everybody differs. But the harder the pad, that's what you use.
Usually the cutting pads, if they're foam, are more dense. It's what you're
Right.
harder. And then there's microfiber cutting pads, and like you said, wool cutting pads. I like microfiber cutting personally.
Me too.
I always finish with foam. That's just the way I've.
Super soft.
It's
foam
my
pad.
procedures, like what you said before. Like everybody has kind of their own little deal. I like cutting with microfiber, depending on the paint, but generally speaking, cutting with the microfiber pad and finishing with a foam polish pad, real soft one.
And then I like to polish if you're doing a full 3-step polish with that polishing microfiber pad.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Those are good.
Yep. That would be like it'd be the second step in that 3, and then again just finishing with the foam. And some people can just get away with like we have on the table here, we have our 3-step system, which most of the time people are just using 2 of those steps. If the imperfections are pretty bad, they're going to start with number 1 in that microfiber cutting pad, and then probably finish with 3. But there's a lot of guys that'll take that. We have a red foam pad that's like a medium polishing pad, not really a final finish pad, but they'll use number 2 by itself as like just a 1-step. And that's what I mean by we always tell people, do a test spot first. Do a small section to see the process that you're going to end up doing throughout the whole entire vehicle. Don't waste your time and try to do the whole vehicle with number 1 and then realize, well, I probably should have used a microfiber cutting pad instead of a foam pad. Find out what the best process is for that particular vehicle.
Yes.
And then
even
go
go through the entire process on that little panel.
Yeah.
Totally
finish it out.
Yeah, finish it out and say, okay, this is what it's going to take. Because you're going to get different cars that may look worse, but their clear's a lot softer, so it's a lot easier to get the scratches out. Like typically Corvettes have super hard paint and are hard to paint correct.
Yeah, a lot of GM clears that way.
So they it's all about that process. But you can be a girl at home who just wants to tackle their car and try to get it, and you can get a dual action polisher, 3-step process, possibly even just a swirl remover type product. Or an all-in-one type product, and remove 90% of your scratches.
We had a perfect case. I don't know if we've ever mentioned it before on here, but there was a guy that we were training from a local dealership, a Mercedes dealership here in Columbus, and they obviously brought a black Mercedes. That's what we were going to teach him on.
Yeah.
And I was on this deck lid and just fighting it. Every pad polish combination that I used, it just wasn't. I mean, it was good, but it wasn't to the level that I would want it to be. I got under the lights and there was a little bit of DA haze. I was like, man, it's just not getting where I want. Pulled out swirl remover. Totally, absolutely made it look perfect.
Yeah.
So in that case, that particular product was the answer for that vehicle. And now that guy, that detailer, that Mercedes dealership has our 3-step. He's using that for most of them. But there's some that swirl remover works great for,
right.
and it just depends.
Just by learning that, he's keeping that swirl remover around now.
Yeah, because it was frustrating me. I was like, man, I can achieve the results that I want to with these 2 of these 3 steps on pretty much anything that I come across. And that one just wasn't. It was probably 90%, but it just that extra 10 that I wanted to get out of it just wasn't. It wasn't getting it, and swirl remover did it.
And it is crazy how almost like all paint's different. I know people are like, what do you mean all paint? I mean, it's just all different when you get into correcting it.
Yeah,
but it can be done. Don't think of the myth of that if I touch a buffer, I'm burning my paint. I don't want to burn my paint because
it's not like that anymore.
You can totally get away with it at your house. And really achieve some great results. Maybe not to what a professional detailer would, but
maybe it's good enough for you.
Right.
And that's why a professional detailer, sometimes it can be hard. You have to go off what the customer's expectations are. You could hit them at a certain price for a paint correction and some sealing or coating or whatever it may be, and they think, oh, I don't need that. Well, okay, that was everything, all the bells and whistles. I'm going to make your paint look absolutely perfect. But how about this price for a one stage correction?
Yeah.
And maybe it's not. Maybe it is only 85% corrected. But to that customer, it looks so much better than what it did before. Maybe it's good by them.
Right.
And maybe it's a daily driver that they're not that concerned about keeping perfect all the time, so they don't need it perfect. They don't need to spend 20 hours.
And that actually is a common mistake, because a lot of these, even I get that way when I'm talking to people, because I'm so into it. Like, I know what I consider paint correction.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone comes to you and they're looking for, they want a paint correction, you got to find out what
What's
that
their
is,
expectation?
what their expectation, because if they just may, like you said, they just may want it, most of the swirls and make it look shiny again and not all swirled up, not to the level of perfection. So you can work your price down. Now you're not going to have the full 15 hours or whatever it takes, and you can work your price accordingly, and then you don't, you can satisfy the customer a lot easier because they just by knowing what they're looking for.
Well, and let's say if you only go into it saying, well, listen, I only spend 20 hours on paint and I only make them absolutely perfect, museum quality. Well, that customer may not appreciate that 20 hours that you did. They don't care, man. Like,
no, they don't. That's not what they're looking for.
That's not what they're looking for. So,
yeah, and it's easy to get lost because that's what you want to do. That's what you do. You can do.
It would be hard for me if I was doing it every single day to not make them perfect all the time. Because I would just fight it. I would get to that point and I would say,
man, that's like a
and they're
thing.
like, man, that looks great. No, it doesn't.
That's like a thing in my brain. I just like, that's why I can't do it all the time because it drives me crazy.
I'd be the slowest detailer in the world.
I would make zero money.
I mean, there's just no chance.
I'd be at a place for a week and they'd be like, okay, Isaac, we got to talk to you, buddy. You're not cutting it.
Your work is great, but you've been here 14 days and done a half a hood.
You got one hood done.
I just,
the other times you're in there in the lunchroom eating.
Yeah. You do two things well.
Yeah, you do two things
You're
well.
buffing.
You can buff really good.
And slow.
And you're slow.
And I'll tell you what you've mastered.
Yeah, is eating at lunch. You ain't missing that lunch break.
No. So that's why we get it all the time at car shows. It's kind of a cool thing, too, when we're at car shows. If we have the flex out and we can start doing some paint correction on the car that we have in the booth, it definitely draws a lot of people in. They're interested in that. And it is totally brought, it's given people the ability, if they so choose, to be able to do paint correction on their own vehicle. It's pretty cool. A tool like this flex right here, I am comfortable with putting that in anyone's hands.
Absolutely.
Anyone. I feel as though could you burn the paint? Yeah, but you would have to almost intentionally do it.
You'd have to be laying on a spot
for
a long time.
Yes, you would. And, that's just with a high-speed polisher, you could do it very, very fast. I've burnt plenty of paint. Anybody who's detailed their entire life and says they never burnt paint is a liar. Okay, let's start with that. I've burnt plenty of paint.
And you get to that little edge with the high speed, get to the edge, and man, it's burning through it so fast.
Done. And so there's a lot of we need to do better. We need to be better about having these videos and really explaining all this stuff. And it's like when we do training. We were just talking about it today. We're getting ready to do, or yesterday, we're doing quarterly training for that dealer group here in Columbus. We're going to their facility. They have their university, and we're going to do training on all different aspects. Each quarter is going to be a different thing. Proper washing methods, clay bar, so on and so forth. One's going to be paint correction. And we go into it saying, listen, we're going to start this deal off with assuming you know nothing.
Right.
I don't want to go in here. There's going to be guys in here that are very, very skilled, and everything I'm telling them they already know. But there's also going to be people that don't know anything about it. So I just treat it as though you know nothing, so we can just go over the whole deal and exactly how to do this thing.
Yeah.
So what we need to do is make videos that for the guy that already knows that kind of stuff, well, he can just fast forward through the parts he wants to see. But for the person that doesn't know,
wants to see,
it's just informative.
Yes. Because outside of ceramic coatings and things like that, the polishing flex polishers, not just flex polishers, but DA polishers in general, are what I get a lot of questions about at car shows.
Oh, yeah.
You can sit there and talk to someone about, polishers because maybe the older guys are used to just using high speed.
Or the old
two-handers.
Yeah, like the two-hand orbital polishers. That I get that today. Archie, our mailman, was telling me, he's like, hey, man, I got my car. He got this new to him Audi, and he was telling me about it. He's like, man, I'm going to get some of that stuff and polish my car out. And I was laughing because, like, yeah, we're getting ready to do a podcast about it. You should listen to it.
Yeah.
And he was talking about, in his mind, one of those, like I call them gym orbitals. That's the one we used to sell. But they're just a two-hand. They're just to apply wax. That's all they do.
Yeah.
They're not taking scratches out. They're not doing any paint correction whatsoever. But in his mind, again,
that's what it is.
That is what a buffer is. He's not. That's what he's used to.
Yeah.
So it's not, that's just putting wax on. But the flex, I can't say enough about them. We're gonna have Chris in here at some point.
Our flex rep is gonna come in, and
he can explain way more from a technical standpoint than I'm ever gonna be able to about these polishers.
And that's why we had to kind of keep this podcast more just in general, because there's so many people that have these questions about paint correction. Like, that's why we'll get into a podcast where it's just about the flex polisher and what it does, and best ways to use it,
and why it's different.
Yeah, and what makes it different from all the other ones out there.
Mm-hmm.
And they are a really, really high end tool.
I love them. I'm used to them too. They're forced rotation, which we'll talk about when he comes in, compared to free spinning, which a lot of dual action polishers are, and people are used to. Forced rotations, a little more aggressive on the cutting aspect of it, but it's just what I'm used to, and I like them. But there's some people that don't like it. They like free spinning. Flex has those too. Just personal preference.
Yeah, they make the polishing world and doing the whole thing make it way easier because you're not sitting there having to worry about every single panel and am I going to burn through the paint and that. Could you imagine having to do that all day?
No.
All day, every day with a high speed, man.
Yeah.
It would be. We've got guys out there right now that are running these polishers all day, every day. That's what they do, is just correct paint.
Well, that's what's cool about this XE3401, for example. Those high-speed polishers you're talking about, not only can they burn paint, but not even nearly as extreme as that scenario is, they create a ton of swirls.
Oh, no.
They create a ton of swirls themselves. You can't create a swirl with this polisher. You can create what they call DA haze, okay, which is easily taken out in your final step with a foam pad, but you can't create a swirl with that.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing right there. If I put a wool pad on a high-speed polisher for someone to try to use to take out scratches, they are swirling it like you can't believe.
And you're having to go back and get those swirls out.
That's right.
That you've
created a lot more work for yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's tough. So another common, question that I get or misconception is, once you finish, you're done,
Polishing,
you've polished it all the way out, you need to add wax because a lot of people think, I would get this at car shows, but a lot of people think once I finish it, that's the deal. It's done.
Oh, it's done, yeah.
Because it's adding protection, but it's not adding our finish. Most compounds, they're not adding any type of protection to the paint.
No,
it's
got
got
no
your
waxes or anything in them.
It's got your paint perfect. So after you're done and it's completed, you need to go over. That's a perfect time to ceramic coat it if you ever thought about that, or just wax. It's when you got to really put the protection because that's going to be the best defense against the day-to-day scratches, swirls.
It's a hell of a start, that's for sure.
Yes, it's going to save you a lot of headache in the long run.
Yep.
It's to always put that on for sure.
Definitely. Started our Christmas sale today.
Yeah. Hopefully it's big.
How's those guys doing down there in shipping?
Oh, I'm sure they've already left.
What time is it? 4:35. They're
good.
like, dude, you know what? Black Friday, Cyber Monday was enough. We had enough of you guys.
We've had enough. Can you guys?
And you're just backing it right up with this whole Christmas thing. And guaranteeing it by Christmas night or Christmas Eve and the whole thing.
It is cool.
They love you.
They're so pumped that I did that.
Yeah.
But
it's straight love when you walk downstairs, isn't it?
I can't even walk down there during the day. No. I just have to walk like with my head turned.
I know. Did you see that big your face with a big red sign? Like,
throwing
no more Todd. Yeah, they've been throwing darts at you and everything.
Stuff. They love it. It is a really good last chance. It is the good little deal on the gift boxes. Last chance to get them. I mean, you obviously can get them until Christmas, but you get them in these next 4 days. They deliver before Christmas. Mm-hmm. It's like $75.
Yep.
And it ships for free.
Yeah, $70, $75 out the door. And you'll see the videos online, and you can look at the pictures on the website. Man, it's just a really good deal.
It's got so much stuff in it. All the favorites. We took the top 5 products from the year, which are Total Interior,
Wash and Wax,
Liquid Carnauba, Hawaiian Shine,
Super Blue,
and Super Blue. Mm-hmm. Got those products plus microfibers, towels, drying towels, double plush. It's a complete kit. Get them what they want,
dude. Make it easy on yourself.
That's what I've been telling people on Instagram posts. Get them what they want.
Just get what they want, man.
Wax.
Dude, it's the number one gift. It's trending on all social media platforms, number one.
And it was even...
biggest search on everything, really.
Yes, it was even mentioned in New York Times bestseller. I don't know. It's coming out.
Really?
Yes. You just have to look deep.
I heard some rumblings.
You have to look deep in the paper to find it.
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah.
It's really the only way to go for Christmas.
It is. If you don't buy one, I don't know what you're doing with your life. No, but it really is a good deal for us, and it's something that's been cool. I mean, as far as we like to do at Christmas, we're in the 12 days of giveaways right now.
Yeah, the Petrobox thing, that's cool. Who won yesterday, you remember?
Yeah.
What do we get? We gave a Petrobox. We gave a gift box.
Gift box and a Petrobox. And the winner, her name was Jennifer Letter, and she was out of Louisiana.
Oh, cool. And then what's today's?
Today is a Super Shine kit.
Yep, the new tire dressing.
Plus a Petrobox. So everybody that's listening to this, stay tuned to the end because at the end we're going to have a blowout giveaway.
Yeah, big
It'll
one.
be Christmas Eve. Will be the last day, I believe, and it'll be a big giveaway.
Over $500.
Yes, and there'll be
in
some
products.
stuff. There'll be some stuff you have to do as far as, qualifying.
Mm-hmm.
So just stay tuned on that, and we'll be having a huge giveaway. Might even be a flex polisher in there. I'm not sure.
It might be part of that 500.
Might be part of it.
It sure is a popular item. We give one away at our car show every year, and the people love it. I mean, once you do get one, if you've ever had one of these kind of, maybe you started with a certain like cheaper version of a polisher, but you find yourself doing more and more paint correction, not just on your car, but your buddies say, hey man, I want you to try it on my car. I want to borrow it, blah blah blah, and then you do step up to something like a flex, and then that's when people are like, wow, okay. Now I kind of get the price, the price difference, man. This is really high end.
It's why, like at car shows, people, or wherever, people are always asking about the DAs, and I'm always like trying to build it up before I hit them, because a lot of times in their mind they have the $60 to $140
because they've seen from like a cheaper retail.
Yes,
Yeah.
what they see out there, and I'm saying now, this is because once you use them, I hate being the salesy guy at those car shows. I'm always just trying to just tell them exactly what it is, but once you use them, it really is. You'll tell a night and day difference.
You could tell them, hey, listen, this XE30-401 is $400. Now, that's a deal because the cordless is $550.
Yes.
The cordless version, well, it's not that exact one, but it is badass. That cordless polish is awesome.
They are awesome.
$550.
Yeah.
Get you some. Get a couple of them.
Make it easy on yourself. Get you a few.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
So that's the deal, man.
Thanks for everybody listening.
We appreciate it. Leave us some comments. If there's something that we're not thinking about that you want us to talk about, I'd be more than happy. If we know anything about it, we'll talk about it.
Definitely.
And we will see you next week.
Check you on the flip side.
Later.